today with our veteran Lail Dawley. We are at the office of the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program at 15945 Canal Road, Clinton Township, Michigan 48038. My name is Jim Pachuki and I'll be the interviewer today. Our videographer today is Joe Remote. And at this point I'm going to see if we can get Lail to tell us his story. Lail, could you start by giving us a little background and you know, where you were born and raised and so forth?
Okay. I was born in Manhattan, Kansas, April 18th, 1918.
That makes you
86 now.
86 right now, okay.
Even as a youngster, I was a little on the wild side. I had one of these little harnesses that they hook the rope on the back, keep you from running away. Mother put me out in the yard, and 15 minutes later I was gone. And that kind of set a format for my entire life. I was graduated from high school in Manhattan. It was at a time, in fact I was in high school at a time when they were having the dust storms in Kansas.
Oh, and
you couldn't see 10 feet ahead of you because of the dust. But I managed to get through that. Went to college, or I should say I was registered in college. I didn't go much, but...
Where was it say you were registered?
I was at Kansas State, which is now Kansas State University. During that time, they started the, let's see, can't think of the name of it. The Roosevelt started it to get pilots.
Oh, the Reserve Officer Training Corps or something?
No,
like
it was part of the
WWW?
pilots. I can't think of it.
Okay, but a program to get pilots. Okay.
And I got my license there. I didn't have enough college credit to get in either the Army or the Navy Air Corps, because at that time it required a full 2 years. It wasn't, they would defer me until I could pick up enough college, but that isn't what I wanted. I wanted to get to flying right away. And 1st of June, 1941, I hitchhiked from Manhattan, Kansas, which was my home, to Winnipeg, Canada. At that point, I went into the enlistment. Yeah, it was the enlistment program, and they thought I was good enough to be a member of the RCAF. Well, I was shipped to Toronto, Manning Depot there, where I was sworn into the the actual date of enlistment. After getting all of the ground training, the weather, Morse code, how to march, and all that, I finally got out, was on guard duty at one of the new bases. There, our commanding officer was a sergeant.
Oh, still around Toronto though?
Yes, that was at, yeah. Yes, it was near Toronto. I can't think of the name. I'm getting old enough that my memory is shot.
It's very difficult to remember this kind of stuff. So.
After that, I was sent to Windsor for elementary light training. That was quite a deal. We were flying again.
Were they biplanes by any chance?
Yes. Yes, they were. Fleet Finch.
Fleet Finch.
I'll refer to this book more often.
There you go.
This is facts.
Right.
Anyway, went through that. My instructor, Rick Bradford, was from Hamilton originally, and he was also my best man when I got married in 42, January 42.
Did you marry somebody from Kansas or?
No, that was strictly in Canada.
Oh, so you married a Canadian girl?
No.
No.
But when I was in primary, we used to go to Detroit. In fact, almost every night. Mm-hmm. One night on the pass, one night over the fence.
Mm-hmm.
So I met this girl and seemed to be quite happy. So.
What was her maiden name?
Patricia Armitage.
From Detroit?
No, she was from Harbor Beach, Michigan. Her father was from Canada. He practiced medicine. He was a doctor and practiced medicine up in the thumb area of Michigan for over 50 years. I went to advanced training at Aylmer, single engine.
Where is Aylmer?
Aylmer, Ontario.
Okay.
Again, near Toronto. I went through that. Got by without wrecking anything. As far as the link trainer is concerned, which is strictly for determining your instrument rating, I received an exceptional rating. Normally, I would have gone to fighter command after my advanced training was single engine. However, they needed pilots at a navigation school, so I was put on special duty. I went to Toronto and was a staff pilot at #1 AOS, Air Observer School,
Okay.
in Toronto for approximately 14 months. Flights almost every day. I did have quite an advantage of that because I was drawing civilian pay.
Mm.
I had the advantages of civilian as well as the military.
Excellent.
It wasn't all that.
Yeah.
From there, I gonna refer to my book again.
Sure.
That book, incidentally, is my logbook, which I still have. I went to the AOS. Then, after the 14 months, I was transferred to England. On the 17th of December, I transferred to the American forces, or the 8th Air Force, which was the B-17 units in England.
How did you get to England? Did you fly over, or did
No, I went across England in the Queen Elizabeth.
in Queen Elizabeth?
There were something like 14,000 aboard when we went over. It was well crowded. I know that as an officer, why, I got a bunk. But the enlisted personnel would bunk in the aisles one night and the deck the next night. So it was quite an experience. Upon arriving in England, and we docked at Greenock, Scotland. They spoke English, I think.
Aye.
The Scotch, wonderful people, but I couldn't understand them. Anyway, they sent us down to, sent me down to Bournemouth, which was just a stop in, but to be transferred someplace else.
Okay.
And that was a short time, but Bournemouth is one of the recreation areas for the British people.
Was this still in Scotland, or had you now?
No, I had gone
Bournemouth
down.
was in England.
Yes. I then was posted to number 81 training unit at Tilstock in Shropshire. This is where I basically got on the little bit that I had to in advanced training, in heavier aircraft, which turned out to be an old Whitley. After that, I went to number 56 Heavy Bomber Conversion Unit, where where I waited until I could get a crew.
Okay.
I had had considerably more flying time than the pilots coming over at that time, and with the training, instrument training that I had gotten,
was the Whitley the most advanced?
no, on the contrary, it was pre-war, and there's a lot of them that came out were a lot better than that. But
I mean,
in 39 and possibly 40, they did use the Whitley, which is a twin-engine bomber.
okay. You were qualified in the Whitley.
Yes, I got.
Were you qualified in anything better than that at this point?
Not at no,
Okay.
not at that point.
Okay.
Then I was sent to after my stay, and it was at the conversion unit that I got my crew. I was, because of the fact that I had considerably more flying, I was considered a pilot for a headless crew. And now...
what is a headless crew?
A headless crew is a crew that had already been crewed up with the pilot, and in this particular case, their pilot, on the last day of their training, had a nervous breakdown. The crew, with the pilot's help, landed the plane.
Mm.
They got a pilot, another pilot then, and went through the entire training again. This pilot, after they had completed it, decided that he couldn't bomb women and children.
Mm.
So that took care of him, because he was put up for court-martial in what they call lack moral fiber. Okay, then that's where I come into the picture. This crew had felt that they were jinxed. And they knew it when they found out that they were getting an American pilot. I could see their disappointment. So, thinking just a bit, I could see they were tremendously disappointed. So I told them, I said, look, I know my job, and I know that you know yours. If we can't work together as a team, I don't want any part of you. After several years, there was a book written on one particular mission of our duty. And I quote,
was this mission at the beginning of the war or later in the war?
it was, it was later in the war, yes.
Why don't we cover that when we get to that point?
We'll do that.
Okay. When you're now picked up this crew, and what happened now?
Well, I just told them that I knew my job and they knew theirs. Anyway, they felt that they were jinxed then. But in any case, we went through the transitional training and got along very well.
Excellent.
We were sent on we were sent to Wickenby in Lincolnshire. England, on the 15th of February, 1944. This is where we started our combat missions.
Yeah, what kind of airplane were you flying?
This was in the British Lancaster, which at that time carried the biggest bomb load of any aircraft on duty. Our normal load was a 4,000 pounder and about 12 500 pounders. So we're talking 10,000 pounds. And that is understandable. The B-17s wouldn't carry anywhere near that, but as far as the B-17 is concerned, they had a crew of 10. They had 50 caliber machine guns as opposed to 30 caliber on the Lancaster. They had armor for various ones. The only armor that there was on the Lancaster was right thin sheet of steel right behind the pilot's seat. And as I say, there was no belly gunner. And
how many machine guns were on the Lancaster?
I think if I remember rightly, it was 3 in the tail and 4 on the front end, the front turret.
Could I borrow this for just a
Surely.
second? I know there's a picture in there of a Lancaster, and I'd like to get it on the. Yeah, well, there's one in here too. That was pretty good, showing. If Joe can zero in on that. That's the Lancaster bomber that Lail is talking about. Okay.
Incidentally,
Back to your
these
spot.
pictures of the bombers are basically all the same one.
Right.
It's one that they have refurbished and is one of 2 left in the world that is airworthy.
Okay.
That one is the Minarsky Memorial plane. Sergeant Minarsky was a mid-upper gunner. They were shot up by fighters. Place caught on fire. They were given orders to bail out. Well, as he was getting ready to go out, he could see that the tail gunner was locked in his turret, the turret jammed. He went on, while he was still on fire, he went back and hopelessly tried to get the gunner out of the turret. The tail gunner then told him that to go ahead. He went to the side door plane, saluted, and jumped. His parachute had been consumed by the fire that was in the plane. So he was just going to his own death. The ironical part is that the tail gunner went down with the plane, crashed, but still lived to tell about it. And it was his story that got him the Victoria Cross, which is comparable to the Congressional Medal. Yes.
Okay, let's go back to you were in you were just transferred to a new base.
Yeah.
And you're ready to start your combat runs.
That's correct.
Could you tell us what that involved?
Well, it involved a lot of shaking and shivering for a while. But my first mission was on Berlin. I was flying with the flight lieutenant of the Canadian Air Force at that time. But it was a scary trip.
Now, when you left England, you had to fly over the English Channel and
Yes.
then over a good part of Germany.
That's correct, to Berlin.
To Berlin.
Yes.
And this was at night.
Yes. All of the missions, with the exception maybe two, were night missions. The 8th Air Force was taking care of the day missions.
Right.
That was on February 16th that I made that flight. On the next one was on the 20th, which was on Stuttgart. Memory serves me correctly, the 8th Air Force had very high losses on their mission to
Right.
Stuttgart. Then came Schweinfurt, Augsburg, all in February. Starting out in March, Stuttgart again. On that mission, we ran short of fuel. I had to land at one of the satellite bases, get some fuel to get back to base. Stuttgart again, Frankfurt, then Nuremberg. The operations on Nuremberg, the RAF had its highest losses of the war.
Do you remember what was at Nuremberg at that point that made it?
I'm afraid I do not,
Okay.
but it was, of course, the basic headquarters for the Nazi regime. They lost more aircrew that night than the RAF did for the entire Battle of Britain.
Wow.
We're talking 96 actual plane losses, and then there were maybe a half a dozen that were so badly damaged that when they got back they were just scrapped. We also did some gardening. Now, what they mean by gardening is laying mines at sea, parachute mines. My first gardening mission was the 9th of April. And it was...
This is 1944 or 45?
This was 1944.
Okay,
Yeah, all of my missions were first half of 44.
okay.
First one was at Danzig Bay, and I can't really remember a great deal about that, but it's Danzig Bay was, I think, the bay from the, again, I can't tell you that. It's near Gdynia, or whatever they call it. Then on the 18th, we had another one in the Baltic there, and it was strange as it seems. It happened on my birthday.
I'll be darned.
I looked down, and it was beautiful moonlight night. But I looked down, and in the harbor there was nearly the entire German fleet.
Wow.
I got a strong urge to go down and strafe. And then I got a better idea. Get home.
Get home.
And I'm sure they had a lot more firepower than I did.
Yes.
Well, they go on there, and they've been Cologne, Dusseldorf, and did a number on the Ruhr Valley there. One thing about it, we had what they call tinsel, strips of aluminum foil that we would throw out, and it would screw up their radar. There they were getting reflecting signals from the tinsel as well as from the plane. Couldn't tell the difference. But what they would do then, particularly around the Ruhr Valley, the searchlights would go up around, all the way around the valley there, like a garden, like a picket fence. Now, I was talking about being scared. Going into that, and you got to remember that you had a lot of other airplanes right there, no running lights, anything like that. So you had to be on your toes really to keep from having a collision. And going into there, you would shiver and shake. Once you penetrated that fence, you didn't have time to be scared. You were busy running, getting on your approach, target approach, and looking out for other planes that were going after that same approach. We did not fly formation at all.
Oh, you didn't?
No, we did not. We were, each of the night planes, or night flying, was done individually. They, your navigators and all had to make their own plots, and everything was strictly on your own.
Let's talk a little more about what you experienced in doing this night bombing. Did the Luftwaffe with their fighter planes challenge you at night?
Yes.
Was your aircraft ever strafed, or?
Well, later on, and it was the one that there's a book written about later on. That was on Mailly-le-Camp, which was on May 3rd. We take off at May 3rd through the night, and then it gets into the 4th also. But Mailly-le-Camp was a German tank repair depot and training school, and they were bringing in a lot of tanks in preparation for the day invasion. On that trip, a screw up in the planning and so on, lack of proper communication. We had to orbit a flare for 10 or 15 minutes and till they got the target marked. And our flight, my flight, was the second that was supposed to have been in there. While we were orbiting this flare, there were Ju-88s, there were 109s, and a 190. The 190 put a 20mm cannon shell through our left inboard fuel tank. Even though they were self-sealing, there you don't seal up a 20mm cannon shell. This 190 was one of the faster planes that they had. My tail gunner was able to shoot it down.
Excellent.
It came, as we were making a left bank, it came up and it was on fire, and we thought sure it was going to ram us, but it didn't. It dropped off and went down and crashed. It was great.
Yeah,
great.
I imagine so.
On the way back, the engineer switched all tanks onto the one that was holed, so we could get back at all. When we landed, or coming in for a landing at Wickenby, which is our base, I had to call in for a straight-in approach. Put the thing down, started back to my dispersal point, and ran out of gas.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was close.
It's a little bit too close.
That was close. But on that actual mission, we were attacked by fighters 5 different times.
How about flak? Were you off?
There's always flak. Yeah.
Okay.
For some reason or other, we were lucky and didn't get too much in damage in the flak.
Is it like when you see it in the movies, it's bursting all around you, or?
Well, that was one of the beauties of night.
Okay, you couldn't see it.
It would just flash, and that was it. So you might feel a concussion from it or something like that, but then you know, all these missions, I don't think I need to list them all.
How many, you said you flew 30 total missions?
30 total missions.
Okay. And the one over Nuremberg was the most difficult?
No,
No.
we managed to go to Nuremberg and back without any fighter
Oh, okay.
interference on that one.
So even though they had all the spotlights, it was still better than when...
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that followed up their radar, so that, and those spotlights were operated with radar too.